Part 45. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 441. The Earth Emperor's book in Emperor Kongtian's hand disappeared, and the two people he had originally included in the Earth Emperor's book appeared in front of him. How could this not shock him? Kongtian, we meet again. The Dragon Emperor gritted his teeth and looked at him angrily. Facing the Dragon Emperor's anger, the Sky Emperor showed no fear. After all, the Dragon Emperor is still seriously injured. He had recovered for so many days, even without the Earth Emperor's book, he could easily defeat the Dragon Emperor in his current state. What the Sky Emperor is really afraid of is Suren, who has always been intact. This young man is really too weird. I want to know, what grudge do I have against you? Emperor Kongtian looked at Suren. I am a person who came out of the exiled land. Is this reason enough? Suren replied calmly. The Sky Emperor nodded. I see. It seems that I haven't suppressed the criminals in the exiled land hard enough. After all, something slipped through the net. Upon hearing this, Suren asked, You have no regrets about what you did? In your eyes, do they all deserve to die? Ha ha ha. The Sky Emperor laughed. Since ancient times, successful kings and defeated bandits. If their ancestors failed, they would naturally be punished. If the Wushuan alliance had won back then, it would be my descendants who would be tortured now. Do you think there's anything wrong? Suren nodded. No, so there is no problem if I kill you. Haha, we still don't know who will win and who will lose today. 8 golden dragons flew up and down around Emperor Kongtian, and finally the 8 golden dragons merged into one and headed straight towards Suren. For a time, the roar of dragons resounded throughout the cave heaven paradise. Suren, be careful. The Dragon Emperor was seriously injured and could only watch the two fighting, but he could not intervene. Looking at the 8-in-1 golden dragon, Suren just cut it with a knife. The roar of dragons all over the world suddenly stopped. The 8-in-1 golden dragon was instantly cut in half, and then disappeared into a faint golden light. The golden dragon was originally the original power of Emperor Kongtian, and 8 golden dragons were killed. It is equivalent to directly cutting off the original power of the Sky Emperor. Emperor Kongtian's face turned pale, he took a few steps back and then collapsed on the ground. It became extremely difficult to even stand. Who are you? With one strike, he cut off the original power of a cultivator in the 9 realms. It was really hard for him to imagine what Suren's strength was and where this peerless strongman came from. There is absolutely no way you are the queen of sinners. If those criminals had a strong man like you taking the lead, they would have rebelled long ago. Why would they need to stay in that bitter cold place? The Sky Emperor stared straight at Suren, wanting to know the answer. But Suren didn't answer his question until he closed his eyes. The vitality of Kongtian, whose origin was shattered, quickly disappeared, and finally he tilted his head and fell to the ground. The Sky Emperor, who had ruled for thousands of years, died in the cave heaven paradise he created. Only the Dragon Emperor witnessed his ending. Dragon Emperor looked at Suren with a confused and shocked expression. The Sky Emperor, who had been in a stalemate with him for thousands of years, died like this. The death was without any ripples, which made him feel a little unreal. He originally thought that the two of them would have a shocking battle, but the result was just that. Looking at the empty corpse on the ground, the Dragon Emperor shook his head. After thousands of years of practice, he still cannot escape the fate of becoming a pile of loess. Fighting over and over again, so what? Suren didn't pay attention to the body of Emperor Kongtian, but looked at this cave heaven paradise. Every inch of land, flowers, plants, and trees here are top-notch cultivation resources. This retreat holy place carefully built by Emperor Kongtian can be described as extremely luxurious. Facing this treasure, Suren began to put all these things into his pet space without any courtesy. The pet space is now expanded dozens of times under the influence of Hongmeng purple energy. It is no longer appropriate to describe it as pet space. Now, Suren prefers to call it a small world. After collecting everything, the Dragon Emperor asked, Suren, what do you want to do next? Suren thought for a while and replied, go to Tianyu. What about this mess? Suren smiled and said, this Sky and Sky Empire will be left to you to manage. I believe you have a way to manage this place well. If there is really a difference between humans and monsters, you can just support a few puppets to manage it. Anyway, with your strength, they won't be able to make any big waves. The Dragon Emperor nodded slightly when he heard this. Okay, when you come back, I'll give it back to you. Let's talk about it then, let's go. I also want to go to the Imperial Capital Supervision Department. In the secret room, there was a sophisticated instrument. On the screen above the instrument, the figure of the Sky Emperor slowly appeared on it. Your Majesty is invincible, how could he suddenly die? Flesh and flesh are weak and the machine ascends. This is also the way he, the Sky Emperor, studies. But no matter how they shouted, there was no response from inside. Looking at his current illusory body, a trace of hatred flashed in Emperor Kongtian's eyes. In the imperial capital, inside the palace, underground of Xixiao Palace. This body can be seen as the result of the Sky Emperor digitizing himself. The guards immediately rushed in. If his body dies, he can be reborn through this machine. After the figures inside were condensed, the Sky Emperor stepped out and appeared in the secret room. Your Majesty is dead. After I go to the heaven realm to ask the palace master to grant me a new body, it will be your death. His consciousness has already been uploaded into the machine. How could His Majesty be killed? Who could kill His Majesty? Suren must completely clear the data at the data processing headquarters. However, he is not an entity at this time. His whole body is composed of countless digital symbols, which looks like a 3D three-dimensional image. The movement here attracted the guards guarding outside to quickly come to check. Impossible. His Majesty did pass away, and I heard he was killed. But it's more about fear. A guard risked his life and glanced into the cave heaven paradise. This sight made him feel cold all over. Suren slashed open the door to the cave and flew out, followed closely by the Dragon Emperor. This is also one of the scientific and technological achievements that the Sky and Sky Empire has studied for thousands of years. The people of the Sky Empire, who were still celebrating the victory and return of the Sky Emperor, were stunned for a moment. What? Dragon Emperor, Suren, I remember you. There is a secret room here that only Emperor Kongtian knows. The man turned around tremblingly and stammered. This is his final trump card. Seeing the body of Emperor Kongtian lying on the ground, all the guards knelt down and cried bitterly. Seeing the gate of Dongtian Paradise with a crack cut out of it, the guards were suddenly shocked and called out Your Majesty several times. The Sky Emperor passed away, and the news quickly spread throughout the Emperor's star. Others saw him frozen there and asked hurriedly, What did you see? I don't believe it. It must be you who are spreading the rumor. You should all be arrested and executed. The fanatical believers of Emperor Sky and Sky heard this and even shouted. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 442. The news that Emperor Kongtian died and that Dragon Emperor and Suren returned to the Northern Territory soon spread to the four major territories. The Wushuan alliance were all stunned when they heard the news. Although this result was a good thing for them, they were caught off guard. The death of the Sky Emperor means that the Sky Star territory controlled by the entire Sky Empire will change hands. And they were obviously not prepared for this. Those who were still gloating over the Dragon Emperor's suppression were even more furious. How so? How could it be the Sky Emperor who died? How can the Dragon Emperor be fine? Many of them were killed by the demon army. Compared to the Sky Emperor, they seemed to hate those demons even more. Of course, some sober people immediately suggested, Supreme Elder, this is an opportunity. Now that the Sky Emperor is dead, the entire Sky Empire is leaderless. We can take the opportunity to take over this unclaimed land. Another person echoed. Yes, Supreme Elder, aren't we just here for this moment? Ruling the Sky and Sky Empire can also save countless exiled places. Our Wushuan alliance will definitely be able to expand its scale again through this opportunity. Even if someone comes from the Sky Realm, we can destroy the Stargate that comes over and hide it for decades to develop before making other plans. The Supreme Elder thought for a moment, frowned slightly and said, but now the Dragon Emperor is not dead. If he intervenes, I am no match for him. We can't take down this Sky Empire. Supreme Elder, this is simple. The first Elder smiled and said, the monster race and the human race have nothing to deal with. How many monsters do they have in the Biwa restricted area? If they want to control hundreds of galaxies, they still can't do it. We can fan the flames and secretly instigate conflicts between the two communities. When chaos breaks out everywhere, the demon clan will not be able to manage such a huge territory, so they will naturally retreat. The worst case scenario is that we give up the northern territory to them, and we have the 3 territories to ourselves. When everyone heard this, they all nodded and thought this was a good idea. According to this method, they can take over most of the territory without a single blow. Even the Supreme Elder nodded after hearing this. Okay, since we can't go head to head with the Dragon Emperor, this is a good method. Go ahead and get everyone ready to take over the territory of the Sky and Sky Empire. Northern Territory, Biwa Star. Seeing the 2 people returning safely, everyone was relieved of the previous gloom. Welcome to the Dragon Emperor and Mr. Su. The demon army shouted in unison. The backbone is back, which means that the Sky Emperor has been defeated. They no longer have to worry about their own lives. Suren, I really belong to you. The sword god came over and praised him. Lord Dragon Emperor, you defeated the Emperor of Sky and Sky. Tiger Lord and other great demons looked at Dragon Emperor and Suren and asked with excitement. The Dragon Emperor nodded. It wasn't us. In fact, it was Suren who did it. If it weren't for Suren, I would have died in that Emperor's book. Kong Tian has been killed by Suren. After receiving the Dragon Emperor's personal recognition, the demons and everyone looked at Suren. This young man is so mysterious and immeasurable. Killing the Sky Emperor who has ruled the Sky Empire for thousands of years sounds a bit dreamy. However, this is the fact before them. Haha, I will say that my master is invincible. No one in the sky or 8 days can be my master's opponent. The Ice Dragon King has now transformed into a young man, with his head held high and a look of pride on his face. As the inherited dragon of the Ice Dragon clan, he didn't feel any embarrassment in calling Suren master in front of so many people. Even the Ice Dragon King is proud of this, for fear that others will not know that his master is Suren. Yun 11 stood behind the crowd, looking at Suren intently through the gap exposed by the crowd. Looking at Suren who was surrounded like stars over the moon, Yun 11 didn't dare to go up and talk to him. At this time, Suren looked so dazzling in her eyes that she felt a little inferior. This was someone who could kill Emperor Kong Tian. She no longer knew how to get along with Suren. The gap between the two is as big as heaven and earth. Yun 11 bit her lip lightly, glanced at Suren for the last time, then turned and walked outside. Maybe I should leave. Yun 11 lowered her head and thought. In the crowd, the sword god patted Suren on the shoulder, pointed at Yun 11 who left the crowd and walked out, and whispered. After that girl heard that you were taken into the immortal treasure by Emperor Kong Tian, she fainted in a hurry. These past few days, I have been thinking about you more than anything else. Although I don't know what happened between the two of you, I can tell that this girl likes you. It's not easy to meet a beauty who truly cares for you in life. Don't let her down. When Suren heard this, he looked at the somewhat weak figure from behind. He didn't want to get too entangled with Yoon 11 anymore, but fate was something he couldn't do anything about. Suren smiled helplessly and chased after him across the crowd. Where are you going? Suren's voice sounded behind Yoon 11. When Yoon 11 heard this voice, her body trembled and she stopped. Then he slowly turned around and stared blankly at Suren, who was catching up. Seeing this, Suren joked. Why, you don't recognize me after we haven't seen each other for a few days? Yoon 11 shook her head. No. No. Let's go for a walk together. Suren invited. Without any unnecessary words, the two of them walked slowly along a river, and the setting sun stretched their shadows very long. The river didn't know where it was going, and they didn't know when it would end. It wasn't until the sun set that the two of them stopped. I'm going to Tianyu to save two people. Yoon 11 raised her head and looked at Suren, her eyes clear and lively. Are they important to you? Yoon 11 asked softly. Suren nodded. Very important. Yoon 11 said softly again. Since Suren said it was important, she wouldn't ask any more questions. Aren't you curious who they are? Yoon 11 shook her head. Be careful all the way. She didn't care who Suren was going to save, she only cared about Suren's safety. As long as Suren can live well, she will feel at ease. Suren looked at the girl in front of him with firm eyes and said. After I rescue them, I will come back to find you. You wait for me here. Hearing this, Yoon 11 felt as if she had been struck by lightning, and she stood frozen on the spot. In those clear and smart eyes, a layer of light mist filled the air, soon moistening her eyes. Faced with a confession that doesn't feel like a confession. Yoon 11's red lips parted slightly and she answered firmly. I'm waiting for you. The two looked at each other, with only each other's figure in their eyes. Under the stars in the sky, they both smiled at the same time. At this moment, in the hearts of two people, the most affectionate confession is not I love you. But that sentence, you wait for me, I wait for you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 443. On the second day, the demon army was reorganized and headed to the other three regions according to orders. As for the southern region, Suren personally led the team. Lu Jin has been arranged by Suren to return to Emperor Star, and Emperor Star needs him to take the lead in handling the matter. Dragon Emperor needed to recuperate, so he returned to the penalty area. Outside the main star of the southern territory. After hearing that Suren had brought people over in person, the Supreme Elder of the Wushuan Alliance led people to greet him. Master Su, welcome. Originally, I wanted to bring someone to congratulate you on killing Emperor Kong Tian. I didn't expect you to come to our southern region first. Your southern region? Suren smiled coldly and said, when did the southern territory become the territory of your Wushuan Alliance? This. The Supreme Elder was speechless for a moment. After Suren said this, the atmosphere instantly dropped to freezing point. At this time, Elder Qin stood up and spoke. Young Susu may not know that the territory lord of the southern region was personally led by our Supreme Elder to kill him. It is not an exaggeration to say that the southern territory is the territory of our Wushuan Alliance. Since Emperor Kongtian is dead, his place is naturally occupied by capable people, isn't it? Suren glanced at this person and said coldly. Who do you think you are? You dare to call me Suzaiyao? Also, do you have any right to speak here? Get out of here. Faced with those from the Wushuan alliance who took advantage of the situation and robbed civilians, Suren would never give them a good look. Not taking action directly was a sign of Suren's extreme restraint. You. Elder Qin suddenly narrowed his eyes and said angrily, Suren, don't be too arrogant. Do you really think that you can do whatever you want by killing Emperor Kongtian? Do you really think there is no one in our Wushuan alliance? The other people from the Wushuan alliance looked at Suren equally angrily. They came to welcome Suren kindly, but they didn't expect that Suren would show off to his supreme elder as soon as he came up. Now he is openly humiliating Elder Qin and refusing to give them the face of the Wushuan alliance. The clay figures were still very angry, so naturally they couldn't bear to be insulted like this. Get out of our southern region. We in the Wushuan alliance don't welcome you. Do you really think that by relying on the Dragon Emperor to kill the Sky Emperor, you can do whatever you want? What cats and dogs dare to provoke our Wushuan alliance? In their opinion, Suren was just following the Dragon Emperor to pick up the slack before killing the Kongtian Emperor. Without the two people's mutual defeat, Suren would not have been able to kill the Sky Emperor. When the Supreme Elder of the Wushuan alliance saw this, he did not stop his subordinates, but allowed them to insult them. If Suren didn't give him face, he wouldn't show mercy to Suren either. Otherwise, I really think that their Wushuan alliance is easy to bully. Even if he is in despair now, he still wants to let Suren know that the Wushuan alliance is not someone Suren can mess with. Supreme Elder, let's put peace first. Elder Mu knew how powerful Suren was, and besides, Suren saved his life. He didn't want the two sides to be so unhappy. Elder Qin answered in a strange tone. Elder Mu, those who know that you are the elder of our Wushuan alliance, and those who don't know think you are one of Suren's. Why, are you going to intercede for this kind of person? Elder Qin, what do you mean by this? I am a member of the Wushuan alliance in life, and I will be a ghost of the Wushuan alliance in death. Don't spit on me. Elder Qin smiled when he heard this. Haha, people's hearts are separated from their stomachs, who knows? At this time, the noise became louder and louder. Seeing that Suren and others did not respond, they thought that Suren was afraid of the Wushuan alliance. So he became more and more indulgent. Have you had enough scolding? Suren's voice sounded. I feel at ease now if I do anything again. The scene fell silent upon hearing this, not knowing what Suren wanted to do. The next moment, the light of the sword flashed in the crowd. Everyone who had scolded Suren fell to the ground, and the blood on the ground made everyone calm down. For a moment, the scene was completely silent, and it was eerily quiet. Suren put away the knife, looked at the person still standing and asked. Do you still want to scold me? I'll listen to you. You can scold me as much as you like. If you scold me, I will kill you. Is that reasonable? Looking at the silent crowd, Suren said calmly. Why aren't you talking? Are you mute? Suren. Elder Qin looked at the corpses on that place and was instantly angry. Those are the men he trained so hard. At this moment, all his years of hard work were in vain. I kill you. Elder Qin was so angry that he raised his sword and killed him. The demon masters behind Suren couldn't help but sneered when they saw this. Oh, you overestimate your capabilities and dare to take the initiative to attack Mr. Su. It's really too long to live. Suren didn't even look at the man, and cut him into two pieces with a casual knife. The blood spurted out to a height of 2 to 3 meters, which was so shocking. The Supreme Elder of the Wushuan Alliance frowned, but he did not dare to take action. He couldn't understand Suren's knife. He was not sure of winning. Once Suren is completely angered, none of them here will be able to leave. Suren, what do you want? The Supreme Elder of the Wushuan Alliance glanced at Elder Qin's body, then looked at Suren and asked. Suren picked up the knife, looked at it sideways, and said calmly. I don't want to do anything, I only have one thing to say to you. People from the Wushuan Alliance, get out of here. After Suran finished speaking, he slashed out with his sword. Boom! A lifeless planet in the distance exploded instantly. Everyone looked there in shock. This sword directly made the anger in the hearts of everyone in the Wushuan Alliance disappear. In front of such powerful men, they have no right to be angry. The Supreme Elder of the Wushuan Alliance looked at the exploding planet, with a deep fear flashing in his eyes. Okay, okay. You're too cruel, let's go. Wait a moment. Surin stops them. What else do you want? Give me what you robbed. You. The people of the Wushuan Alliance neither dared to get angry nor speak out, so they could only honestly hand over all the resources they had snatched in the past few days. Finally, they left under the leadership of their Supreme Elder, and no one dared to stay long. Master Su, don't you want to get rid of the roots? I think the Supreme Elder has a grudge against you. The big demon behind Suren asked. Suren shook his head. Forget it, they're just some unimportant people. The demons nodded. Yes, these little people are indeed nothing to Mr. Su. Okay, I'll leave the southern territory to you. After Suren finished speaking, he flew towards the location of the Stargate here. He will not go back to the northern territory. He has already said goodbye. Sword God and the others also stayed in the North Territory, saying that they wanted to help repair the Stargate on the Blue Star side so that they could bring people from Blue Star over to practice. He had not been a qualified guardian before, but this time, he decided to try to be a qualified guide. As for how the Demon Clan should take over the territory left by the Sky and Sky Empire, this is not what Suren is worried about. Let the Dragon Emperor deal with this kind of problem by himself. Suren believed that with his strength, controlling the sky and star field should not be a problem. After Jingling recovered a quarter of his body, his memory also recovered a lot. It was she who told Suren the way to Tianyu. Suren also asked the Dragon Emperor and got similar results. However, if you want to go to the Sky Realm, you cannot reach it directly through the Stargate. Suren also needs to go to the star field closest to the sky field, the Hessen star field. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 444. In a dark and dim galaxy, a girl with white clothes and black hair looked back, covering her chest and flying quickly in a certain direction. Scarlet blood soaked into the white clothes on her chest, dyeing a bright red flower. The girl's face turned pale and her brows furrowed. After hearing the movement behind her, she held the sword in her hand tighter. Ha ha ha, Xingran, you can't run away. Let's capture him without mercy. An extremely arrogant laughter sounded not far behind the girl. Surrender obediently, and we might be able to allow you to meet your master in comfort. Ha 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 ha. Dozens of laughter sounded at the same time, and the laughter was full of obscene meaning. When the girl heard these laughter, a look of sadness, anger, and determination appeared on her face. Even if she dies here today, there is no way they can take her back. Looking at the girl who was still running away, the scar-faced man chasing behind her turned cold and slashed out. His target with this knife was not the girl, but a huge meteorite in front of her. Boom! The meteorite was chopped into pieces, and the debris flew directly knocking back the fleeing girl several steps. Although it didn't hurt her, it forced her to stop. Hey hey! Run, will you keep running? A group of people took this opportunity to surround the girl and looked at her with evil intentions. Aren't you pretty good at running? The scar-faced man stepped forward and looked at the girl who was already a turtle in the jar. Seeing that there was no way out, the girl's eyes became more determined. Your Majesty the Queen, Xingran takes the first step. The girl was about to raise her sword to kill herself when she heard a suspicious voice. Excuse me, What are you doing? After Suren walked out of the Stargate, he flew for a long time without encountering any living person. After finally seeing so many people gathered here, Suren planned to come over and ask for directions. Hearing the sound, everyone looked into the distance and saw a young man waving hello to them. "Excuse me, how to get to Tianyu?" The scar-faced man smiled grimly. "I don't know the way to heaven, but I can tell you the way to hell." Dare to ruin their good deeds, the scar-faced man decided to let Suren know what it means not to disturb others when nothing is wrong, otherwise his life will be at risk. Looking at the fierce scar-faced man, Suren was a little confused. "I'm just asking for directions. Is it necessary to be so fierce? Could it be that the way I greeted you just now was considered impolite in this star field? Master, save her, quickly." At this time, in Suren's little world, Zika suddenly shouted urgently. "Save who?" "Save the girl they surrounded." Suren looked closely and realized that a crowd was surrounding a young girl. "I asked them why they were unhappy. I thought the way I greeted them was wrong, but it turned out that I was ruining their good fortune." Since Zika asked him to save the girl, Suren would not ignore it. It was just a matter of course anyway. "Kill him." At this time, the scar-faced man waved his hand, and his subordinates behind him rushed forward in a swarm. Suren took out the knife slowly and slashed it out. "I'm sorry, I won't go to hell. You should go on your own." Before these people could get through halfway, they all fell down. When the girl saw this scene, she lowered her sword that was about to kill herself. She didn't expect that someone would show up to save her at this time. Moreover, he looked so strong. The scar-faced man saw that his subordinates were all killed with one blow, and his heart suddenly went cold. He knew that they had hit an iron plate. This kid looks less than 20 years old, why is he so strong? He is also a smart man. When he sees something is wrong, he runs away. Oh, he ran pretty fast. If I were in a good mood, I could spare your life, but I'm not in a good mood today. Looking at the opponent's back that was about to disappear under the starry sky, Suren stabbed him again. The girl looked at Suren, who had killed her pursuers in the blink of an eye, and immediately thanked him. "Thank you for saving my life, sir." Before Suren could speak, Zika ran out of the small world first. "Zingran, is that you?" Shika looked at the girl in front of him and excitedly helped her up. The girl was lowering her head to thank her. When she heard this voice, she couldn't help but raise her head in confusion. After she saw Shika's appearance, she couldn't help but said in surprise, "Your Majesty, why are you here? Aren't you surrounded in a dark prison?" The girl was a little confused. "No, why has your strength dropped so much?" The girl felt Shika's message, and the doubts in her eyes became even greater. As if she thought of something, the girl took a few steps back and stared at Suren and Shika warily. "No, you are the Thunder Emperor's people, and you want to deceive me with a cruel trick." Seeing this, Shika's hands turned into vines and rested on the girl's shoulders. The two seemed to be communicating through the vines. Finally, the girl knelt down excitedly. "The maid Zingran has met Her Majesty the Queen." This operation between the two made Suren look stunned. What is this all about? This girl calls Shika queen? Shika is indeed called the Queen of the Forest, but wasn't she a boss she captured in the Blue Star copy? I don't know how far away Blue Star is from here. Is Shika the clone of a certain big boss? After the two reminisced about old times, the girl looked at Suren and said, "Her Majesty the Queen, is this your bodyguard? She looks young, but she is so strong." Just as Shika was about to explain, Suren said first, "Yes, I am Her Majesty the Queen's bodyguard. My name is Suren. Nice to meet you." Shika looked at Suren in surprise. Suren smiled and winked at her. After all, she is a queen, so she still has to give others some face. If she says that she is Shika's master, this girl's mentality will probably collapse. Hello, my name is Xingran. You are really powerful. You can kill Long K's people with just one knife. There are quite a few of them who are in the upper 6 realms. By the way, Suren, what state are you in now? Suren thought for a while and replied, let's go to the 7th realm. His current real realm is indeed only the lower 7 realms. Xingran thought Suren had referred to down instead of up, so he didn't think much about it. You are already in the 7th realm at such a young age, you are really amazing. Suren glanced at the injury on her chest and suggested. You seem to have been seriously injured. Why don't you find a place to heal your injuries first and we can talk while we walk? Good. Your Majesty, follow me. Xingran led the way, and Zika walked to Suren and thanked softly. Master, thank you. Among all Suren's pet animals, she has the highest IQ and the smartest one. Of course she knew that Suren claimed to be her bodyguard to maintain her dignity in front of her men. It's a small matter, but it's you. You have to tell me what happened to you later. I like to hear gossip. Shika nodded. In fact, her memories slowly appeared in her mind as her strength gradually became stronger. After returning to the star field, the memories in her mind became complete and orderly. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 445. The 3 of them flew for a long time and finally found a planet with spiritual energy. After the 3 people entered the planet, they found a forest to enter. Xingran sat cross-legged under thousands of trees, and saw streaks of light green spiritual energy floating out from the surrounding trees, and then flying into Xingran's body. As the light green spiritual energy was absorbed, Xingran's face turned rosy. What kind of cultivation method do you have? Suren didn't understand. Shika on the side explained, we in the Heesan Star territory are actually demon clan. But it's not the kind of monsters that take the form of animals in the Biwa restricted area, but various flowers, plants, and trees that turn into spirits. As long as there are plants, we can absorb their energy for our own cultivation or healing. I see. In order to help her recover from her injuries quickly, Suren took out some bloodstones collected from Emperor Kongtian's cave heaven paradise. This shocked Xingran. Bloodstone was not a common thing. Every bloodstone was precious. She didn't expect Suren to have so many bloodstones on his body. Seeing that Xingran was about to refuse, Suren immediately said, You're welcome. Your Majesty, the Queen asked me to give it to you. Please heal your wounds quickly. After hearing this, Xingran immediately thanked Shika again. Shika's eyes looking at Suren became softer at this time. On the main star of the Hessen Star territory, the original Queen's palace was now occupied by a group of outsiders. On the throne, a man with thunder and lightning all over his body was listening to the report of his subordinates in the palace. There were many powerful people standing on the left and right sides of the hall. Your Majesty the Thunder Emperor, 70% of the territory of the Hessen Star territory has been captured by us. We have killed most of the resistors, a third have been imprisoned, and the rest are in hiding. The Thunder Emperor nodded. Ha 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 ha. Very good, when the entire Hessen Star territory is captured, it will be the time when I set foot on the upper 9th realm. I have been waiting for this day for a long time. At this time, another person entered the hall and knelt down to report. Your Majesty the Thunder Emperor, Queen Shika has entered the small world of Black Prison, and we can't break in for the time being. Also, the lifelights of Long K and others who were chasing Maid Shika were extinguished. Hear this. People on both sides of the hall suddenly started talking. Queen Shika is so courageous that she dares to hide in the Black Prison. I heard that that place is a gathering place for dead souls. People who go in rarely see anyone who comes out alive. Even if you come out, you will lose your mind and go crazy. And what happened to Long K and the others? They were chasing an injured mate and were killed in return. They are simply a bunch of losers and have disgraced our Leo region. All right. Emperor Lei snorted softly, and everyone in the hall stopped talking. I don't care where Shika is hiding, you must capture her, and I want her alive. Rosa. You lead people to attack the Black Prison, and you must capture Shika for me. Yes, His Majesty the Thunder Emperor. One person walked out of the queue and left with the people behind him. Others, keep an eye on everything for me these days and don't cause chaos. Okay, let's all disperse. The Thunder Emperor turned into a bolt of lightning and disappeared into the palace. A few days ago, he fought with Shika. Although he succeeded in a sneak attack, he was still injured. In fact, taking over the Hessen Star territory was a lie. His real purpose was to absorb Shika's origin. Plants have extremely long lifespans, let alone these plants that have become spirits. Among them, Shika, as the queen of the Hesse Star territory, has a lifespan that is so long that no one knows. If he absorbs Shika's original power, he, the Thunder Emperor, will definitely be able to break through to the ninth realm. This was the only purpose he had been planning and plotting for so long. Where Suren and the other three were, Shika told Suren his memories. Her true body is 9-apertured exquisite wood. God gave them plant-like monsters a long lifespan, but also made their cultivation speed extremely slow. Shika practiced for an unknown amount of time before reaching the peak of the upper 8th realm. But this seems to be the limit of what she can practice. Thousands of years ago, Shikar suddenly developed a method and used his original power to condense a precious seed and exiled it into the starry sky of the universe. And this seed floated to the blue star, took root, and slowly grew. However, 1,000 years ago, Blue Star was classified as a place of exile by the Sky and Sky Empire, and their 1,000-year digital experiment began. Shika, who had not yet fully grown up, was designated as a boss in the dungeon. In the end, by mistake, Shika was captured by Suren and turned into a pet beast and brought back to the Hessen Star territory. She and Queen Shika have the same roots. What else? Why, are you afraid? It's full of ghosts. It's said to be the place where souls go after death. Suren glanced at the small world. The only person who could speak was Cair, who had not yet hatched. Her Majesty the Queen must have had no choice but to hide in the dark prison. The last I heard from your Majesty was that she was forced to go to the Black Prison. Then what are we waiting for? Let's go save Her Majesty the Queen. Xingran nodded. With the help of the Bloodstone, her healing speed was greatly accelerated. Now Shika should also stay in the Hessian Star territory. Suren didn't know when she would be able to come out. Normally no one dares to go in. Even if you get close, you will feel cold and uncomfortable. While Suren was still sighing, Xingran had already finished healing. Xingran sorted out his thoughts and said. Suren looked at her and smiled. Shika only has memories of the past, and she doesn't know what is happening here now. Xingran, what happened? The Ice Dragon King stayed in Biwu, and Steel also stayed there. Is that so? His Majesty fought to the death, but he only had time to take a few of us to escape to the Hessen Star territory. In order to let us survive, His Majesty led the pursuers away. Now that she has absorbed the Hongmeng Purple Chi, Cair's hatching progress seems to have slowed down a lot. What kind of place is the Black Prison? It looks scary from the look on your faces. Huh? Are we the only ones? Hearing this, Suren asked. The Black Prison has appeared in the Hessen Star territory since I don't know when. After hearing this, Suren had to wonder if there was a pair of invisible hands controlling everything. But the Thunder Emperor asked 3 powerful old men for help and severely injured His Majesty. I never thought that the Thunder Emperor would actually set up a trap to capture Her Majesty the Queen. With your Majesty's strength, even if the Thunder Emperor sets up a trap, it would be impossible to hurt her. Queen Chika wants to let the seed cultivate itself, and when the two merge, they will break through to the ninth realm. Suren stood up and said. Her Majesty the Queen felt that this matter was feasible, so she was invited to go to Liu. Huh, I'm not afraid. I'm willing to die for Her Majesty the Queen. 7 days ago, the Thunder Emperor of Liu invited Her Majesty the Queen to go to Liu. He said that he had discovered an 8 tribulations immortal grass. He himself had little effect on absorbing it. He said that there was a chance for Your Majesty to break through. And the condition is that Her Majesty the Queen will give 3 exquisite fruits in exchange. He was like a train that arrived at the station, all the passengers got off, and he was the only one left in the end. You are quite loyal, let's go, you lead the way. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 446. The 3 of them flew all the way. On the way, they met several people patrolling the Liu area. Suren was killed by Xingran before he could take action. As the Queen's maid, she definitely can't do it without some strength. After passing through several galaxies, the 3 of them came to a stargate. Xingran reminded. Through this stargate, you can reach the vicinity of the planet where the Black Prison is located. People from Liu may be guarding the exit of the stargate opposite, so we have to be careful. Suren, please protect Her Majesty the Queen, I will take the lead. Don't worry, I will protect Your Majesty the Queen. Well, let's go. The 3 of them stepped into the stargate one after another. At the exit of the stargate on the other side, there are already thousands of people waiting here. A man looked at the people in front of him and said loudly. Queen Shakar has been forced into a black prison, and her subordinates are very likely to rescue her through the stargate. So put a bright light on my eyes. Even a fly is not allowed to pass through. No matter who comes here, as long as they are not from our Liu area, take them all down. At this time someone reported. Grown-ups. What's up? The stargate is lit. The person who just lectured immediately turned around and looked at the location of the stargate. I saw the blue light of the stargate lighting up, and it was obvious that someone was coming from the other side. Alert! After hearing this, everyone picked up their weapons and stared at the stargate. After a while, a strong figure about 3 meters tall led someone out of the stargate. Lo, Lord Rosa. Why are you here in person? Everyone who was on guard just now immediately took back their weapons and bowed in salute. Rosa, also known as the Wind and Thunder God General. He is the most powerful general under the Thunder Emperor in the Thunder region, with strength in the early stages of the 8th realm. Except for the Thunder Emperor, no one in the Thunder territory is his opponent. Rosa looked at everyone and snorted coldly. Isn't it because you are too useless? I can't catch a seriously injured person, and I still need to take action myself. That's what Master Rosa taught you. Everyone lowered their heads and did not dare to refute, leaving Rosa to curse. After Rosa had scolded enough, she stopped and asked. Any news from Queen Chika? The leader here bowed and said, back to Lord Rosa, there has been no movement since she entered the Black Prison. We have been guarding outside the Black Prison and did not dare to enter. Upon hearing this, Rosa cursed trash again. The leader could only bow his head and endure it, not daring to speak back at all. Take me over there and have a look. Yes, you come with me. After Rosa and the leaders left, everyone raised their heads. What are you dragging? If you don't know better, you might think he is His Majesty the Thunder Emperor. That's right, if you don't do something well, no matter how big or small you are, you will be scolded by him. His Majesty the Thunder Emperor will not scold people like this. Okay, stop talking. If he listens to it, you will not be able to reap the benefits. Everyone fell silent after hearing this, but it could also be seen that Rosa was not popular with these people. If he hadn't been strong enough, he might have been hacked to death one day. When everyone stopped discussing, the Stargate lit up again, but this time it was not people from the Thunder Domain who came out, but two women and a man. Stop, who is it? Several groups of people immediately surrounded him. Complaints are complaints, they still act according to their responsibilities. Seeing this battle, Xingran frowned and said, Suran, we may be in for a fierce battle, there are too many of them. Be careful and don't worry about me. Thousands of people gathered here, which was somewhat beyond her expectation. Her Majesty the Queen's clone was too weak at this time and had barely reached the previous level, so it could hardly help them. It is impossible to leave now, the only way is to break out of the siege and run into the dark prison. Xingran took out her sword and looked behind her. Originally, she was planning to let Suran shine on the Queen during the fight, but she saw Suran pull out the sword. Hearing countless screams, Xingran looked back. Thousands of people gathered in front of them had fallen to the ground, not even a single living person was left. Xingran opened his mouth wide, his eyes full of horror. You. Xingran pointed at the corpses there with his sword, and then at Suran. I was so shocked that I couldn't even utter a complete sentence. Suran spread his hands and said, it seems we won't have a hard fight today. Shika shook his head, smiled and said to Xingran. Let's go, you can get used to it later. Xingran still didn't react. Her Majesty the Queen, but, Xingran still didn't know how to describe what he saw. This was a bit too outrageous and shocking for her. She is also in the sixth realm herself, and she knows that the strength gap will be larger with every higher realm. She thought Suran was in the seventh realm, which was one level higher than her. Just kill a few thousand dwarf chickens every day. At this time, the entrance to the black prison had countless layers inside and outside. It's just a kind of singing. Xingran was a little disappointed, but in her opinion, the dwarf chicken must be something extraordinary that could allow Suran to practice such a powerful sword. However, as soon as his consciousness extended in, it was immediately cut off. Suran waved his hand mid-sentence. When she was with Suran, Suran could kill everything with one blow. The man only had time to let out a scream of terror before he was swallowed up by the black prison. What kind of chicken is a dwarf chicken? After walking outside the entrance, Rosa stopped, then stretched out her consciousness to look into the black prison. Forget it, even if I tell you, you don't understand. Anyway, your star field doesn't have that kind of thing. Xingran said curiously, and even Zika came up curiously. Suran did not lie to her. His sword-drawing skills were practiced by those low-level dwarf chickens. The reason why it is called the Black Prison is because it looks dark and like a prison, it is difficult to get out. At least half of the masters in Lea gathered here. Get away. Looking from the outside, the entrance is extremely dark, like a black hole that absorbs all light from the outside world. There are indeed some secrets in this black prison. Therefore, she actually didn't know how Suran practiced it. A thin man was grabbed and thrown in before he could realize what was happening. But it's not a big problem. With his strength, he can recover relatively quickly. There was an angry curse, and Rosa came over with someone. Xingran finally straightened his tongue and looked at Suran doubtfully and asked. This made him frown. But this is a big difference. Why can Suran kill thousands of people with one sword? They are the main force chasing Queen Chika. Okay. Everyone saw Rosa's figure and hurriedly made way for him, for fear of offending this murderous man. Rosa looked around, then suddenly grabbed into the crowd. How did you practice? The three of them jumped over the many corpses and flew forward. His consciousness was cut off, causing him some mental trauma. The entrance is like the gaping mouth of a gigantic beast. Rosa looked at the people around her coldly and walked towards the entrance of the black prison. Dark prison. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 447. The onlookers were all shocked by Rosa's sudden move and took a step back. They did not expect that Rosa would also kill one of his own. Everyone's impression of him deepened. Rosa looked at the black prison and frowned even more. He had just used the power of thunder to wrap around that person. Unexpectedly, after the other party fell into the black prison, he disappeared instantly like a mud cow falling into the sea. Even the power of thunder that connected him to that person disappeared. It seems like you can't find anything out by testing outside. You still have to go in. Rosa looked at everyone again. Now everyone is completely panicked. Are you still coming? These people are not from the Thunder Emperor's army. They are just invited by the Thunder Emperor to come together to hunt down Queen Chica. Let them be thrown into a dark prison to die. There is no way they would agree. As soon as everyone retreated and fled, there was a sound of wind and thunder. The few people who escaped were struck by wind and lightning and turned into ashes instantly. I will kill anyone who dares to escape. Rosa's cold voice sounded in everyone's minds. Rosa, we are not your subordinates, why do you want us to die? Do you really think you are invincible in the eighth realm? Despite Rosa's ferocity, there were still several voices of opposition. These people are all people who have reached the upper seventh realm, and they have a certain confidence to dare to talk to Rosa like this. Oh! You can also try and see if I can kill you in 3 moves. After Rosa finished speaking, the momentum of Shangri realm instantly suppressed the entire audience. Everyone's expressions changed as they were suppressed. Everyone, come with me into the dark prison. No one can leave. I will personally supervise you until the last person goes in. Now, it starts with you. Rosa pointed at the people near the entrance to the black prison. The expressions of these people changed suddenly. They could not defeat Rosa, and they would definitely die if they escaped. The only chance now is to enter the black prison, and maybe there is a chance of survival there. If you still don't move, do you want me to take you in personally? Rosa's cold voice sounded again. These people bit the bullet and jumped into the black prison collectively. It's your turn. Rosa looked at the other group of people. As he watched, everyone walked into the black prison one by one. After a while, Rosa was the only one left at the entrance to the black prison. Rosa looked around, took out a white paper crane, and after making 2 seals, the white paper crane flapped its wings and flew away into the sky. After doing all this, Rosa raised the corners of her mouth slightly, and then plunged into the black prison. Not long after Rosa entered the black prison, Suran and the other 3 came over. Looking at the extremely deserted entrance to the black prison, Suran couldn't help but look at Xingran and asked. Didn't you say that your majesty the queen is blocked in the dark prison? Where's the person who blocked her? Xingran looked around, touched his head and said doubtfully. It's strange. The news I heard is that Her Majesty the Queen was blocked in the black prison by masters from the Thunder Domain. Where did those people go? Seeing her unreliable appearance, Suran ignored her and looked at Zika and said. Can you feel where your main body is? Shika shook her head. I can't feel it. This dark prison can cut off the connection between the inside and outside. You can only feel it if you go in. Then what are you talking about? Just go in. Master, Suran, is it dangerous to go in like this? What are you afraid of? I'm here. Follow me closely. Suran took the lead and walked in. When the 2 saw this, they followed him. Suran is not afraid, and they have no reason to be afraid. The black prison is located on a planet far away. A white paper crane flapped its wings and flew towards a pavilion in a lake. In the pavilion, 2 of the 3 old men were playing chess, while the other was watching the game. The white paper crane flew into the pavilion and landed on the shoulders of the old man who was watching the battle. The old man watching the battle spread his palms, and the white paper crane fell on his palm. After reading the content, the old man watching the battle stroked his white beard with one hand and said with a smile, "There is news from Rosa that he has driven most of the masters in the Thunder territory into the Black Prison. Today's minefield is empty of defenses, and we can take action. How's it going with the Thunder Emperor?" The two old men in the game asked. "Haha, the Thunder Emperor was injured. He is probably still recovering from his injuries, so don't worry about him." "Very good. It's time to give the order. Let the people in the Alliance take action. You can go there in person. When Rosa comes back, we will get rid of the Thunder Emperor." "Good." The two old men who spoke continued to play chess, while the old man who was watching the game disappeared into the pavilion. "By the way, I heard that something big happened in the Sky Empire." "That's right. It is said that the Sky Emperor who broke through to the ninth realm was killed." "Oh? Who has such strength? Is it someone from the heavenly realm?" "No, according to Duguxian, it was a man named Suren who joined forces with the Dragon Emperor to kill the Kongtian Emperor. Now the entire Sky Empire is occupied by the Dragon Emperor's demon clan." "Haha, Duguxian really succeeds more than fails. He had such a good opportunity, but he was beaten up and ran back to the Alliance in despair. It's really embarrassing. It's better to say less, so as not to ruin the harmony within the Alliance. Duguxian has been sent by the Deputy Alliance leader to help us deal with the capture of the Thunder territory and the Heesan Star territory. He should be on the way now." "What do you mean? We are all going to succeed. Is he coming here now to grab a share of the credit?" The old man who spoke slapped the chessboard, and the chess pieces fell to the ground with a snapping sound. Another old man looked at the chess pieces on the ground, shook his head and sighed. "It's not like you don't know the relationship between Lonely Xian and the Deputy Alliance leader. He is the Deputy Alliance leader's father-in-law. Old Wu, let's just be patient and forget it." The old man named Wu snorted coldly. "Humph, I just don't like them. Forget it if you are useless. Seeing that we are about to succeed, but now you want to share the credit. How can there be such a good thing in the world? In order to pursue these two major areas, we spent a lot of energy to create this opportunity. Why should he get a share of the pie? Old Song, you are just too tolerant in everything, which is why you let them take advantage of you again and again. If we don't speak, they really treat us as dumb. I don't care what they want to do, but I will never give in on this credit." The old man named Song could only sigh when he heard this. How could he be willing to do so? It's just that within the Alliance, there are some things that they can't do whatever they want. Without a backer, it is normal to be suppressed by others. "No, I will write a letter to the acting Alliance leader now, and I will ask him to judge us." After the old man surnamed Wu finished speaking, he took out a white paper crane and started writing. The old man surnamed Song saw this and hurriedly stopped him. "Old Wu, you don't want to live anymore. If this matter gets serious and the deputy leader loses face, you and I will definitely be targeted and suppressed by him. Maybe we will be killed by him at some point. Oh, forget it, let him share the credit, just treat it like we bought a clean house." The elder named Song crushed the paper crane to pieces with a wave of his hand. "Oh, you. Forget it, I don't care." The old man surnamed Wu flicked his sleeves and left here angrily. "Even if this matter is in the past. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife." Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 448. In the Dark Prison. As soon as Suren stepped into the Black Prison, he felt a cold breath coming towards his face. Originally, Suren thought that he couldn't see anything inside, but he didn't expect that there was some light inside. "I don't know if the ground is dirt or something else, but it's soft when you step on it. The entire space was filled with thick gray fog. There is no distinction between front, back, left, and right here, only up and down. Suren waited there for a while, but never saw Xingran and Zika. It's broken. Wasn't it randomly teleported? Suren looked around, but there was nothing but gray mist. It looks like we are really separated. What should we do? Jingling, are you able to find them? The mirror spirit transformed into its true body and flew out of the small world. Then, just like the last time in the Daihuangsha space, her mirror body emitted countless rays of light. These lights will be reflected once by any object until they disappear. After waiting for 10 minutes. No, where are you from? Jingling looked around suspiciously and asked. Hell, what's wrong? Dark prison? Never heard of it. The space lights I sent out can jump through space. They haven't come back yet, which shows that this space is a bit scary. I can't help it, you can figure it out yourself, and then call me after those lights come back. After Jingling finished speaking, he returned to Suren's small world. Suren had no choice but to walk in a random direction. Not long after leaving, Suren felt something staring at him. As soon as his consciousness reached out, it was cut off instantly. Huh! This familiar scene surprised Suren. To limit his consciousness is to limit his ability to speak and follow the rules. This is the same place as the white wall in the depths of the abyss and the forbidden air in the Biwu forbidden zone. Something weird. Suren took out his knife and looked around. Suddenly, a gray shadow flashed through the fog in the distance. Suren's Hung was worried that he couldn't see any living creatures, so he just picked up the knife and chased after him. Ah! A shrill cry sounded. White bone skeletons with green flames in their eye sockets climbed up from the ground. These skeletons had both human and animal shapes. There is even a skeleton riding a bone horse and holding a rusty sword like a general. Suren made a rough estimate and found that there were at least tens of thousands of various skeletons here. Then there was another shrill cry. These white skeletons rushed towards Suren. I'm going to the army of the undead, right? Seeing this, Suren didn't panic and slashed out with one strike. Pieces of skeletons were cut off at the waist and fell to the ground. The bones fell to the ground, and the sound of clattering kept making. With just one strike, all the skeletons fell to the ground. However, something unexpected happened to Suren. The skeletons that had been cut off at the waist actually got up again, and even tried to reattach their severed limbs. But they failed. So they chose another method, using their two hands to support their upper bodies and crawl forward. He's not dead yet. Is it really undead? It is said that this dark prison is the place where ghosts return, and Suren somewhat believes it now. His sword can't cut through invisible objects yet. Suren looked at the skeletons that were about to crawl over, and suddenly slashed the head of a skeleton with his knife, cutting its skull into two halves. This time, the two green flames in the skull's eye sockets had no place to rest. After falling to the ground, they disappeared directly into the ground. Hey, it turns out this is your weakness. Knowing their fatal weakness, Suren was not polite. This time the goal is no longer to cut off their bodies, but to cut into pieces their eye sockets filled with green flames. At this moment, the army of tens of thousands of skeletons was defeated. Countless green flames were swallowed up by the earth and disappeared. But Suren still felt that these things were still alive. Perhaps these skeletons are just their carriers. While Suren was inspecting these skeletons, a grey figure quickly flew deep into the mist. Where to go? Suren chased after him directly. Without even thinking about it, this guy must have been doing something secretly just now. The grey shadow was extremely fast, and because it blended into the grey mist, Suren still lost track of it after following it for a long time. Just as Suren stopped, a ray of light flew back from a distance. Suren recognized this light and immediately called Jingling. Jingling, the light of space you released has returned. The mirror spirit flew out of the small world, received this ray of light, pointed forward and said, "More than 10,000 kilometers straight ahead, there is a city with." When Jingling said this, the transformed figure frowned and said, "There are people inside, and spirits. It's really strange that those spirits attached to the bones won't dissipate. This is really the first time I've seen it. What is a spirit? How should I put it? Just think of them as souls. Generally, after leaving the body, the soul will dissipate quickly. If a weapon spirit like me cannot find a magic weapon to attach to, and is exposed to the outside for a long time, it will dissipate. That's why I said it's strange that these spirits can survive on a pair of bones. Let's go over and take a look." For the first time, Jingling was curious about what she saw, and instead urged Suren to hurry over. Suren nodded. "No matter what the place is, it will be more useful than searching here aimlessly. More than 10,000 kilometers is not far for Suren, and it only takes a few minutes to fly at full speed. This place is different from the Biwa restricted area. It cannot be restricted and only targets spiritual consciousness and spirituality. Maybe it's because the spirits that live here are the ones mentioned by Jingling." A few minutes later, a towering city appeared in front of Suren. The entire city was black, as if it were made of black soil. Above the city gate, the three characters Yudu City are clearly written. At the city gate, 2 rows of 8 skeleton soldiers stood guard holding spears. Before Suren could move forward, a loud shout suddenly came. "General, this human being has injured many of our brothers." Suren looked up in search of the voice. "I saw a grey figure leading the way, followed by a burly skeleton. That skeleton was followed by dozens of smaller skeletons. But unlike the skeleton Suren had killed just now, the flames burning in the eye sockets of the skeleton called the general were dark green. The bones also look much glossier than those of skeletons. And, they can fly. Why are so many humans arrested today? But if you dare to break into my spiritual world, don't even think about walking out alive. Kill." The skeleton known as the general waved its skeleton hand. The skeletons behind it rushed towards Suren. "Again. But I've discovered all your weaknesses, so it's useless no matter how much you come." Suren drew out his knife, pointed it at their skulls and chopped them off. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, How Like the Human World. Chapter 449. Crash. The skeletons that rushed down were shattered on the ground. Unlike the will-o'-the-wisps inside the skeletons just now, these will-o'-the-wisps did not fall to the ground, but were suspended in mid-air. Seeing that their bodies were destroyed, these will-o'-the-wisps turned around and ran away, hiding behind the skeleton general and shivering. This scene shocked the skeleton general. This human being is a bit stronger, much stronger than the humans they captured. Very few of the humans they captured not long ago were able to break their men's bodies into pieces. But this human being chopped the bodies of all its men into pieces with just one blow. Great, General. The grey shadow is no longer calm now. This human seems to be a bit ridiculously strong. You go and inform the lord of the city. The skeleton general spoke human words, and the grey shadow nodded and flew into Yudu City. I'm here to find someone, not to fight with you. If you help me find someone, we can sit down and have a good talk. The skeleton general did not take action, nor did Suren. Since the other party has built a city and has its own level system, they should be regarded as the original inhabitants of this world. They certainly know the world better than they do. It is definitely better to find people through them than to search blindly on your own. Perhaps the skeleton general knew that Suren was not easy to mess with, or perhaps he was delaying time to wait for their city lord. Who are you looking for? Suren described the appearance of Zika and Zingran. After hearing this, the skeleton general shook his skull and said, "We have never seen these two people here." Suren wanted to ask again, but then he saw a person flying out of the city in the distance. This person's whole body was wrapped tightly, but from the neck up, he could still see the appearance of a skeleton. Unlike other skeletons, the will-o'-the-wisps in this man's eye sockets are light red. Moreover, its bones are as lustrous as jade. Through comparison, Suren roughly figured out the difference between strong and weak strength in this world. The first is the flame in the eye socket. The ordinary cyan flame is weak. The red one should be one level stronger than the cyan one. The second is the strength of their body bones. The stronger the strength, the glossier the bones. Who dares to be so rampant outside my capital city? The white jade skeleton shouted after flying over. The skeleton general quickly complained. The city lord, this human being, beheaded dozens of my younger brothers. How brave! It seems that you don't take my Yudu city seriously. The white jade skeleton held a bone spear in his hand and was ready to take action after saying a few words. Suren cut off his right hand holding the gun with the knife, and then looked at him with a smile. Still fighting. As long as this guy is not stupid, he should know the difference between the two. You. The white jade skeleton looked at his chopped off right hand and stopped in shock. There was no pain, but if you could chop off his right hand, it meant you could chop off his head. Although it won't die without its body, its strength will definitely be greatly reduced. I don't know how long it will take to find a new body and start practicing again. After just thinking for a moment, the white jade skeleton immediately became amiable. Haha, misunderstandings are all misunderstandings. Brother, what are you doing in our Yudu city? As the white jade skeleton spoke, he picked up the skeleton hands and weapons that fell on the ground. Take this back and repair it, and it can be continued. Find someone. At this time, the skeleton general next to him also added in time. City lord, we don't have the person he's looking for. After seeing how powerful Suren was, it didn't dare to be presumptuous anymore. Even its own city lord has given up, so naturally it will no longer confront Suren. Haha, it's okay. We are familiar with the spirit world. We can help you find out. Brother, let's go to the city and discuss it slowly. What do you think? Suren nodded. Ken. Upon hearing this, the two skeletons immediately flew down to lead the way. Walking all the way into Yudu city, I found that it was still busy inside, and the streets were full of skeletons walking around. There are even some little skeletons playing around. If it weren't for the fact that their skeletons were exposed without any flesh and blood, Suren would have thought he had entered a mortal city. The skeletons looked at Suren curiously and discussed. The city lord and the general have captured another human being. This is already the 23rd one, right? Where did these humans come from? Why are there so many of them today? Don't ask about this. We can't go to the human world. If we go there, we can't come back. As Suren walked, he listened to the discussions around him and learned more about the world. The outside world sees this place as a dark prison that cannot be entered or exited. The spirits inside also see the outside world as a forbidden place that cannot be returned. I'm sorry, brother, you can't eat our food. You might get poisoned if you eat it. I don't have anything to entertain you. It doesn't matter. In the end, he couldn't help but twitch the corner of his mouth. Two skeletons grinding bones together, right? Suren imagined what the wedding bridal chamber of two skeletons would look like. Why did you get a wife? We in the spiritual world are different from you. We, men and women, communicate with each other using the original spiritual fire. Yuming seemed to understand what Suren was thinking, opened his mouth and explained. To be honest, I will leave for Wujian City to get married tomorrow. The lord of Wujian City is my father-in-law. Suren waved his hand. By the way, what's your name? But when I thought that what they ate was useless to humans, I gave up the idea. No wonder it's easy to get in and hard to get out of this world. Are there any other big cities near your capital city? By the way, can you breed offspring? He understood clearly that these spirits were playing at a very advanced level and it was a spiritual enjoyment. Hearing this, Suren couldn't help but raise his eyebrows. When Yu Ming said this, the red flames in his eyes jumped a few times. The two skeletons took Suren all the way into the city lord's mansion. Originally, they wanted to ask their men to get some food. 80,000 miles away from here, there is a big city called Wujian City. It's not what you think. Only, if people who come in from the outside can't find a way out and don't have spiritual energy entering their bodies, they will definitely be consumed to death inside. This question was what Suren thought about after seeing those little skeletons playing around in the city. The white jade skeleton heard the words and replied, "My name is Yuming, and I am the city lord of Yudu City." He has long been separated from the pleasures of mortal flesh. Suren guessed that it meant excitement. Moreover, there is no spiritual energy suitable for human cultivation in this world. It is only suitable for the cultivation of spiritual bodies like them. The nether skull nodded. Suren looked at it, fearing that its head would fall off on its own. Suren couldn't help but praise. Suren glanced at its lower body, which was covered by clothes. There was nothing there, just a pile of bones. You still know how to play. The picture was so beautiful that Suren didn't know how to describe it. According to the laws of this world, there is a high probability that he will marry a skeleton. I changed my profession and became a concept god, shocking the world with one knife. Author, how like the human world. Chapter 450. Of course. Yuming explained again, if we want a child, both parties will separate a ray of original spiritual fire and blend together. Then find a body that suits it. In this way a new life is born. Where did your bodies come from? They are dug out of the ground. Every year there are all kinds of body skeletons appearing underground. If you don't want the human form, you can also choose the animal form. Anyway, after choosing a body, we need to spend time slowly cultivating and polishing this body. It will accompany us throughout our lives. If it is destroyed midway, we need to find another one. Hearing this, Suren was a little curious and said, "Are you going to die too?" Suren thought they would not die and would remain alive as spirits. Of course we will die. Green spirits can only live for a few hundred years, while red spirits like me can live for thousands of years. As for the golden spirit above the red spirit, it can live for tens of thousands of years. I don't know about it above. Thanks for answering the question. Through these questions, Suren gained a general understanding of the world. Can I go see those people you arrested? General, take Suren. Yes, City Lord. The general took Suren to a prison-like place next to the city lord's palace. What do you do with those people you capture? Suren suddenly thought of this question. The general replied. Our city lord is quite open-minded. Generally, as long as they promise not to harass our Yudu city, we will let them leave. As for whether they live or die after they leave, we have no control over them. As for other cities, they usually imprison the captured humans. Some city residents have quirks and like the handsome men and women among them. I will buy them back and play with them, and most of them will be killed in the end. Their skeletons are then taken out and sold or used by themselves. Hey! Hearing this, Suren couldn't listen anymore. This is not what perversion is. Arriving at the cell where humans were held, Suren took a glance. All of these people looked sluggish and had injuries on their bodies. Suren even discovered a person in the upper sixth realm. I caught this man with my own hands. He injured many of my men. I plan to take him to Wujian City and sell him to compensate my men. Suren heard this and glanced at the skeleton general. Just now you said that your city lord is more open-minded. However, if it injures its subordinates, it is normal to receive some compensation. Seeing that Suren was not injured, but could also communicate with the skeletons, these people looked at Suren expectantly. Brother, help! Help me, help me! Shut up! The skeleton general roared angrily, and everyone was so frightened that they did not dare to speak anymore. They just looked at Suren with hopeful eyes. Suren ignored their looks and asked, "Where are you from? How did you get in?" We are from Liu. I accepted the mission from His Majesty the Thunder Emperor and came to the Black Prison to capture Queen Shika. Originally we didn't dare to come in, but Rosa forced us to come in. Not long after we came in, we were caught by these skeletons. Brother, you must save us. Suren nodded after listening. So that's it? Chasing Shika, right? I'll let you hunt him down. Suren turned his head and looked at the general beside him and said, General, my suggestion is that you go to your city lord and ask him to capture all these people and sell them to Wujian City. Of course, it's okay to use it as a betrothal gift. It's not surprising if there are so many people. When the skeleton general heard this, the green flames in his eyes immediately jumped. Okay, Master Su is right. I will go and talk to the lord of the city now. He had wanted to do this for a long time, but the city lord didn't agree. Originally, he had some objections to Suren. After all, Suren had injured many of his men. But now he has changed his mind about Suren. We are both human beings, why are you so vicious? Son of a bitch, I'll kill you. You piece of shit, you have to die. Listening to the curses from everyone, Suren let out a cut sound. Who told you to pursue and kill my people? As the saying goes, there is a cycle of cause and effect, and if you do something wrong, you have to bear the consequences. Early the next morning, the city of Yudu has become lively. All the skeletons know that today is the day when the city lord goes to Wujian City to get married. The city has been hung with red cloth. Yu Ming took the lead on a white bone war horse, Suren was on the left, the general was on the right, and behind him were hundreds of skeleton soldiers carrying some special gifts from the spirit world. Suren took a look and saw that they were all bottles and jars, most of which contained something similar to spiritual energy that could be sucked. Of course, there are also some spiritual materials that can be used to polish and strengthen bones. The rest are some polished and smooth bone coins. Forget it, let's not talk about it. You ruined the atmosphere I worked so hard to create. After Yu Ming finished speaking, bursts of cheers immediately erupted in the city. Grandma, you dare to take advantage of me, Netherworld. I think they don't want to live anymore. Due to too much baggage, the team's speed was not very fast. What's happening here? Of course we know that today is your wedding day, because you are the one we are waiting for. That's how we came together. I'm telling you, I'm not bragging. My wife is a first-class beauty in this area. When talking about his fiancée, although Yu Ming's face was fleshless, Suren could see that it was filled with pride. Lord of Netherworld City, you are so majestic. It was really hard for him to imagine how beautiful a skeleton could be, and it was really hard for them to resonate with each other's aesthetic concepts. The wedding procession slowly walked out of the city. When I was traveling and wandering around, I happened to rescue her from a group of gangsters. Yu Ming flew into the air, looked around and shouted coldly. It can be seen that it has a high reputation in this Yudu city and is highly respected by the skeletons. Why are you laughing? I'm serious. Red flames danced in the eye sockets of the three-headed skeletons. Anyway, when you see my wife in Wujian City, you will know how beautiful she is. It's a savage bandit. Thank you all for the gifts and the power of love. Xiaopija is very grateful. I will give you the 5th update today. I never imagined that marrying a daughter-in-law in this world requires so much dowry and money. At the end of the team were the monks from Liu who were tied up in the prison car. My people, wait for the city lord to return from his wedding. Then we will hold a big banquet and eat and drink to our heart's content. She was amazed by my strength and I was obsessed with her beauty. Ha ha ha. The towering black mist was like a flood, blocking the surrounding water. While the two were chatting, a dark wind suddenly blew around them. Yu Ming wore a festive red robe, looked at the onlookers and laughed loudly. Su Ren asked with a frown. I know, you, ahem, you continue. On the way, the two chatted. The fire in Yu Ming's eyes jumped a little, and he said a little angry. A group of skeletons came out of the black mist. Ahem. Upon hearing this, Su Ren couldn't help laughing and coughed twice. You little rat, don't you know that today is my wedding day in the underworld?